Hello, my name is Joellen Williams, and I am the curator for the Bentley Rare Book Museum at Kennesaw State University. Due to COVID-19, we cannot host in-person rare book programs. Instead, it is my pleasure to provide you with remote access to a couple fascinating publications of the 1920s. It can be easy to reduce the 1920s to the Roaring Twenties, a decade of fun and decadence only to be followed by 10 years of utter depression. Although these descriptions do make up part of the historical narrative, the past is much more complex than that. One of the best ways to understand the milieu of an era is to read publications from that time. Today, we are going to analyze two publications from the 1920s to see if we can better understand American society approximately 100 years ago. First, let's examine this copy of Liberty magazine from February 23, 1929. Liberty was a general interest magazine that ran from 1924 until 1950. It was published weekly and presented the latest topics in popular culture, politics, and society. Let's take a look at this cover. What do you notice? We see three pilots, two confused-looking men, and then one woman who stands confidently in front of the plane. The caption says, "Give her the air." We can already come to some conclusions about life during the 1920s. We can determine public interest in airplane technology, which was still relatively new at that time. We can also see the burgeoning image of an empowered and liberated woman. While many of us may associate women's liberation in the 1920s with the suffrage movement, women also began to gain freedom in other ways, including social behavior and sexuality. This 1929 issue of Liberty also devotes a good portion of coverage to the evolution debate, which came to a head during the 1925 Scopes trial and continued to impact American education in the following years. Liberty features a 4-page article discussing the state of Arkansas's recent anti-evolution law and outlines the heated debates that have taken place between modernists and fundamentalists. Again, we see here that the 1920s was not all about dancing and parties. Americans were hotly contesting major societal and political issues that we still talk about today. Now, let's explore this 1926 issue of Ladies' Home Journal. You may actually recognize the title of this publication because it was a household name until roughly 2014. The Ladies' Home Journal had a long-standing place in American culture as one of the 7 sister magazines that solely targeted women. The Ladies' Home Journal ran monthly from 1883 to 2014 until the publication company announced that it would transition the magazine to a quarterly schedule. Based on my research, it seems like the magazine has either been defunct or extremely sporadic since 2016. As we talked about earlier, many magazines of the 1920s depicted women in more liberated roles than in past years. However, traditional gender stereotypes were still prevalent. The advertisements in this issue of Ladies' Home Journal skew heavily toward beauty remedies, as we see here, and products for homemakers. We do, however, see advertisements for cars like these, but you'll notice that the advertisements often assume a man is buying the car for his wife. Another important part of analyzing archival publications and rare books is noticing who is not represented. In this case, we see a blatant omission of people of color from these magazines. If mainstream magazines did choose to include an African American in the publication, it often looked like this. Look familiar to you? Maybe so, maybe not. This is an ad for Aunt Jemima's pancake mix. Most of us are familiar with the Aunt Jemima brand of ready-made pancake mix and syrups owned by Quaker Oats Company. In fact, this is the brand of pancake syrup that I grew up on as a child. Although the Aunt Jemima brand freed many women during the 1920s from the burden of home cooking, the brand also exploited African American women by using the caricature of an enslaved black woman or mammy figure. This full-page ad tells us that Aunt Jemima's pancake mix has that matchless plantation flavor and quotes this fictionalized character in dialect. Although Quaker Oats changed the Aunt Jemima brand to a more refined-looking character in later years, the company recently announced that it would remove the Aunt Jemima image and rename the brand as a way to advance social justice and cease the perpetuation of racial stereotypes in their marketing. Thank you for attending this miniature edition of Rare Book Open House. To all of our patrons, we miss you dearly, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully in the coming months. If you'd like to contact us or need more information about the Bentley Rare Book Museum, please visit rarebooks.kennesaw.edu or email us at rarebooks@kennesaw.edu.